From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
What's up, world? It's the one and only Pop DBacks, the primetime capper. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. And it is time for the premier sports betting show, the PrimeTimeAngles. So let's go ahead and jump into it. And this is where we're at. Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. And that's going to be the Hall of Fame game from last night. Hall of Fame game has exciting finish for Browns fans as they win against the Jets 21-26 as DTR makes impressive debut. Well, Dorian Thompson-Robinson was absolutely amazing last night. He absolutely took care of his business last night for the Browns. He was able to get them the go-ahead touchdown as well, too. And he was also able to throw a great block for his old college teammate, Demetric Felton, and scored the touchdown that actually got the Browns within 2 points in this game as well, too. So the Browns played a very great team effort for guys that are really playing their hardest for a spot right now. The starters did not play yesterday. I don't think one starter was in that game yesterday. I had some some technical difficulties in the first about 20-30 minutes of the game, so I missed most of the first quarter, so I don't know if they had any starters out there. I know Deshaun Watson wasn't out there. I know Aaron Rodgers wasn't out there, but I know that they might have had some of their guys that are actually playing for the starting spot kind of show off a little bit, but I doubt it. I think that it was more of a practice game than anything and more of an evaluation for the guys that they possibly may pick up moving forward, because we already know that there's guaranteed contracts on this team and there's only about 8 roster spots available in reality. Let's keep it real. And a lot of them are backup spots. None of them are starting spots. I think the Browns are pretty set on who's going to be starting for their team. Same thing goes with the Jets as well, too. The Jets were very impressive in the first half. They had some good looks. Also, Zach Wilson probably threw the best pass of the game, a 57-yard bomb. That was absolutely a gem of a throw as well, too. It was a good look. It was a good look for a guy who was thrown away somewhat by his coach and by his city, by his organization last year. And now he has Aaron Rodgers there as the best type of mentor to have for you moving forward. So they really did do the best that they possibly could do last night on both sides of putting together a pretty good watchable game. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times we get these games with these in the preseason where guys are just, they're lollygagging a little bit because, they don't want to get hurt, things like that. But then you got the guys who are getting evaluated, and this may be their final football game ever. So they're going to really go all out and really play and show exactly how good they are moving forward and see if they can get on these rosters. And last night, it's going to be tough to pick these guys apart. They had some really good players last night who stepped up their game and were really, really adamant about making sure the coaches noticed them. And I was a big fan of that last night. Now, when you look at the Hall of Fame, you see that we're getting 9 guys in this year. That's a lot of guys, and we're getting 5 current guys and it looks like 4 old school guys. Well, 6 former guys, 3 legends, and it looks like they're going to get Joe Klecko in there from the Jets. Also, the late Ken Riley, who played for the Cincinnati Bengals, and Don Coryell, the master of the air raid offense, the godfather of the passing game that we all enjoy today. And pretty much Dan Coryell has one of the more vast coaches trees as well too. A lot of his great students are in the college ranks. And then you got Rondé Barber, who was a great safety, twin to Tiki Barber, who might have been the more famous one because he played in New York. But Rondé was always the epitome of consistency. So it's great to see him there. Also, you have Chuck Howley. I said it was 3, but it's 4. So Chuck Howley was a guy that's seen as one of the better Dallas Cowboy linebackers of all time. And he's a guy that they pretty much overlooked for a long time, and now he's finally in there. Also, you have DeMarcus Ware there as well, too. It's funny that you didn't get a Dallas Cowboys game this weekend because, usually when you got 2 Cowboys going in, they'll find a way to put the Cowboys in. But for the Jets representative this weekend, it's none other than Darrelle Revis, 25 career picks. I think it's more about his lockdown skills than anything. But, when it comes to picks, he's not one of the top guys all time with picks. But all in all, Darrelle Revis had the NFL world on their absolute feet when he was at his prime, and he really made it tough on all wide receivers that were on that other side, especially 4 or 5, 6 different Hall of Famers that literally had their toughest game ever against him. And Joe Thomas, the Mr. Cleveland Brown himself, the guy that sacrificed so much to have his whole career in Cleveland. The guy could have probably won 3 Super Bowls if he left Cleveland, because every top team in the NFL we're literally ready to give the Browns most the farm for Joe Thomas later on in his career. And Joe Thomas stayed loyal to the Browns, and he will be the final inductee on Saturday that speaks. And that's going to be something tremendous because Joe Thomas is probably the coolest guy ever, because most guys get pretty pissed off about not winning. And Joe Thomas never had that issue. He just enjoyed the fact that he had the opportunity to play in the NFL, which is a beautiful thing. I can't wait to hear him speak, and I can't wait to hear the rest of the inductees speak. But all in all, I would say this is a very, very good class. And let's not forget, Zach Thomas. This is crazy. 7th round pick. He was a Jimmy Johnson favorite. The guy really was deemed as too short, too little to play in the NFL, and he winds up playing for 15, 16 years, and he wound up being one of the best middle linebackers to ever play the game, and that's just absolutely amazing. So this is a great class of guys that were overlooked somewhat, but they came around and made sure that everybody noticed who they are, but except for Rondé and Joe Thomas and I think Darrelle Revis. But everybody regardless, they're Hall of Famers for a reason. So with that, let's go ahead and move forward and jump into our next topic in hand. And that's going to be some breaking news that we got. Oregon and Washington will leave the Pac-12 to join the Big Ten. Does this signal the official end of the elite West Coast Conference? Well, I said it the other day, but yep, it's pretty much Rap City for the Pac-12. What can you do? There's nothing you can do. It looks like there's 18 teams set to play in the Big Ten by 2025, because we know that they have about another year or 2 left in the Pac-12. All the teams that are going to be leaving, Oregon and Washington, it's not official yet, but it's very close, and it's pretty much 90% a done deal. So if you say 90% of a done deal, it's a done deal. They just need to do the parameters and the logistics and things like that. Only thing is that Oregon and Washington aren't going to get a big piece of the pie. They're just going to get, they're going to get something that's going to be more down the road. But I truly do feel the Big Ten might need to say this. We need to really look at who belongs in our conference now, because we have 4 teams from the Pac-12 that are seen as their dominant group of teams. We all know Washington, Oregon, USC, and UCLA probably have the most street credibility out of everybody in that conference. Let's keep it real. Other than Arizona and Arizona State, but Arizona is probably not going to get the same attention. I think Arizona is kind of destined for the Big 12. And Arizona State is in talks right now with the Big Ten as well as Utah. That's more of a basketball move in a sense for those two schools, in my opinion. But, Utah is a football school as well, too. And, they just want all these markets. That's all it is that they're looking at the Big Ten to be a TV conference now. And you can totally see the writings on the wall. They're going to break this conference up into two different groups. It's going to be two different divisions, and they'll probably not play each other as much as you would really do. So I could see, say, Ohio State, Michigan, Minnesota, Purdue, Indiana. Who else? I'm thinking of all the teams that are very, very set in stone with the Big Ten. Teams have been here 50, 60, who've been here for 50, 60 years. I don't think they all split apart. I think that when they bust up the divisions, those teams go together. And the newer teams will stick together, and they'll add in two of the teams that are more closer to their regional basis. So that would mean that Nebraska will probably be in a group with Rutgers, Maryland, UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington. It doesn't make sense geographically, but if you play it by credibility, the old Big Ten and the new Big Ten, and you kind of do an American League, National League situation with these two. So it's a lot of fun, but it's just really sad to see my home conference, the Pac-12, a conference I grew up in love with, in the 90s, in the late 80s, in the early 2000s, just literally for the last 20 years, just lose its whole aura of greatness, because just by them not being able to lock down this TV deal should have told us all something. And by them having such a poor situation when it came to having their own TV networks for their teams, and that did not work at all because nobody could get the Pac-12 network unless you paid a little bit more on your sports packages. And what's the point of paying a little bit more for your sports packages if you have teams that are not even in the top 25, but it's a Power 5 conference? So there's a lot of things that the Pac-12 just dropped the ball on. They got too comfortable with being the only elite West Coast conference where they took them seriously, where you could have a number one team in the nation, where you have national champions, where you have everything that keeps you up with the big boys. But they did not keep themselves up with the big boys by teams like Arizona, by teams like Washington State and Oregon State constantly being teams that are struggling to keep their teams looking up with, the rest of the conference. Arizona being more of a school that's more worried about their education more than anything now. That's fine though. I love schools that are like that. Arizona State's always been school sports, but now they know that they're at the brink of joining elite situation, and they've proven that they can hang with the Big Ten. They've beaten some of the top Big Ten teams over the last few years, including Michigan State, who was a top 5 team at the time when they beat them. So there's a lot of things that you have in place that call for this conference to be so good. But this is the new college football landscape. These conferences are about to literally, they're all about to merge, So we may not even have the ACC anymore because Florida State's now grumbling about, it might not be feasible enough for them to stick around in the ACC. Why? Because you got the SEC with a big bag of money telling you to come on down the road. So there's a lot of things that are planned. They're playing a part into college football, and it's all about the money at the end of the day. Who's going to be a part of the final 12 that are going to be in the playoff situation that literally they dreaded on doing for the last 50 years. And now it really doesn't even make sense on doing it because you literally made Division II the championship version of it where they have their own playoff. And you guys put these bowls in place so everybody could stay happy and everybody could get their money. Now it's all about playoffs and things of that nature. But we keep finding out that when you have playoffs in college football, If the competition isn't all on the same level, it doesn't matter. There's only going to be 4 really good teams at the end of the day. And really at the end of the day, it's only going to be 2 really good teams. And then when you look at it, it's just so much money that they think they have to have. And that's what it's all about. It's not even about competitive sport anymore. It's all about how much money can we get. That's it. It's that simple. But we'll still be tuning in on every Saturday, every Thursday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Friday to watch our college football. But just understand now, college football, the innocence of it is gone. It's over with. That day has walked down the road. Now it is a big business, and that's what it is at the end of the day. Very, very simple. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward to our next topic, and that's going to be this. That's going to be we're going into the boxing world real quick, and Devin Haney moving up to 140 to challenge Regis Prograis for the WBC title in the fall. So Devin is still the undisputed champion of the lightweight 135, but the biggest thing with this situation right now is that you have a situation where if Devin decides to leave, then they're going to strip him, right? But they have something in place to where if he pays some step aside money, then he can keep his belt, his WBC crown at the 135, and keep his belts intact as well too, and possibly go back to 135. But we know that Devin Haney will probably never go back down to 135. That ship is sailed. He really can't make the weight anymore because the guy is a growing man. That's the whole thing. Devin Haney was able to do all these things when he was a little bit younger, but now Devin's about 24, 25 years old. And so now he has to go ahead and move up in weight because he's getting stronger, he's getting older, and you will be at a disservice if you keep fighting at 135. Devin's whole goal at the end of the day is to be the 147 champ. They're all eyeing towards 147, but they have to go through the motions of these weight classes before they get to that weight class. So you have Regis Prograis, a guy that has been pretty much overlooked his whole boxing career, but he's been able to win 2 titles at 140. He won the WBA years ago, and then last year he was able to win the WBC in a firefight that happened over in Carson. Now, he did defend this title a month or so ago, and he didn't have the greatest showing in that fight because, Prograis was off for a while. It was at home in New Orleans, somewhere where he hadn't had a fight where he was the headliner and all that good stuff. And so pretty much he had everybody and their mama loving him and wanting to run with him and hang with them and be at the gym with them. So he got a little distracted. And what happened there is that he almost lost his fight because in any other city or state, it probably would have been a split decision or a draw. But he had a fight where it was a little ugly, but he had to get some fine tuning going and things like that. But it's all because a guy is struggling to make weight. And that's exactly what it is. Regis Prograis told us a few years ago that it was really tough to make 140, especially after he fought Josh Taylor. So he then moves up to 147. He fought 2 fights at 147. And literally he had an issue where he fought a guy on Triller and the fight got stopped because the guy he was fighting got hurt. And then he came back around and he got a good win over Juan Heraldez as well too. And these were kind of some under the radar wins and things of that nature that nobody really was that concerned about, but they were good wins for him moving forward. He was able to get this shot because he was able to get the WBC shot because he was due for it. So pretty much now this sets up for a what we would like to call a cherry pick somewhat, but I don't like to call this a cherry pick because Prograis is one of the tougher fighters in boxing, and a lot of people before his last fight were very high on Prograis, saying that he was a killer, he's somebody you just don't throw guys in there with, and blase blase. But the moment Devin chose him, all of a sudden, oh, he's a bum, he's not good, he's the weakest of the group, but he's the guy who's moving up for it. And, Prograis is using all this as motivation. He feels he's going to knock Devin Haney out. And then he also feels that Devin Haney shouldn't be playing around with 135 and 140 and all this good stuff. But you know what? At the end of the day, he also begged for the fight and was literally like, Devin, please fight me. Please, please fight me. So, it's just it's all love and fair and war at the end of the day. So pretty much this fight looks to be a very, very good fight. Is it 50-50? I would say it's probably 55-45 to Devin Haney, because Devin Haney's going to come in the best shape of his life. We know that. And Prograis, you have to hope that he makes weight that day. Seriously, because I think they might need to be ready to have a portion where he may get fined or something of that nature, because I don't trust Prograis, as he gets older and really making 140 without killing himself. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We'll talk more about it as we get more news on this fight, because it's tentative for the fall. But that does not mean the fight is going to happen in the fall. But we have had the announcement. Devin's moving up. And it looks like it's going to be for October 28th. But once we get the set date, I will go ahead and confirm that for you as well, too. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward to our final topic before we take our break. And that's going to be another boxing situation where we have Jake Paul staging another pay-per-view boxing event, now on DAZN, back to DAZN. He was on DAZN for his second fight or his third fight or whatever fight. His first fight was on DAZN. I was there. I was in Miami when he beat Gibb or whatever that guy's name is. And DAZN, as he takes on retired UFC legend Nate Diaz. Is the hype train slowing down or moving accordingly? Now, I talked to Mike about this yesterday because Mike brought up this fight and was like, oh, they're having some fisticuffs over at the press conference and da-da-da. Look, man, this fight is not doing any numbers right now. Nobody's talking about this fight. Nobody cares about this fight. Only thing that people care about is the fact that Jake Paul is going to fight against Diaz, who's a UFC folk hero in a sense. He wasn't the greatest fighter in UFC, but he's a guy that played by his own rules, and a lot of people love that. So that's why he has Nate Diaz here, because he felt like he would have a good promotion partner. But Nate Diaz has not done anything towards pushing this promotion. Nate Diaz is just showing up to get paid. That's simple. Because he knows everybody that fights Jake Paul gets paid. That's what he brags about. You fight me, you get paid. You do this with me, you get paid. You do that with me, you get paid. So pretty much he's just showing up. And it doesn't look really good for Paul because there's no theater to this thing. They tried to have a little skirmish yesterday. Nobody cared. Everybody was like, oh, okay, it's staged. Because we've seen this happen before with Jake. Nothing seems genuine when they do it. I'm still a Jake Paul fan because I love the pivot and the move that he made. But at the end of the day, everything runs its course. And I feel like after losing to Tommy Fury, whatever hype and whatever accolades and compliments that you have for Jake Paul, they cease to exist because he took on an actual boxer, a guy who boxes for as his career, even though he's in and out the ring more than he should be because he's not a full-time boxer. But Tommy Fury's a boxer. He knows what he's doing in the ring. And Tommy Fury did enough, even though he got knocked down, he did enough to show that Jake Paul was still a guy that still needs is still rough around the edges when it comes to boxing, and that he isn't really on a superior level. He's just on the level of a little bit better than a novice. You know what I mean? He tries really hard. He works really hard. We're not going to take that away from Jake Paul. He puts in the work to be a good fighter. But being a great fighter, that takes a little bit more. And Jake Paul doesn't have that at the end of the day. But he has a great selling pitch. He got a great selling niche, as I would like to say. And he's good at promoting himself, and he's good at promoting his events, and he's good at making sure you hate him. And right now, I don't think they hate him enough to where people are going to show up and really care about him fighting Diaz and possibly getting knocked out by Diaz or knocking Diaz out. I just think that everybody's just on this one talking about and saying to themselves, I'd rather just keep my money in my pocket. And I'll wait for the results. I'll wait for the highlights. I'll wait for all that stuff because it seems like whenever Jake fights, whatever's going to happen in that fight will go viral 30 seconds after the fight is over or during the fight. So pretty much it has killed whatever selling points that Jake truly has at the end of the day. All he is a guy that has a very popular YouTube channel that was able to market himself into a business that needed some creativity. And all he did was help boxing realize that it's still a very much requested sport to watch, but you have to put the right people in the ring. And that's the whole thing. And last week, 675,000 viewers, really 700,000. I think they did 1 million. They just kind of want to mess the numbers up so they can, kind of, do their little ulterior hate. But you have that. You have the Ryan Tank fight. Then you have Benavidez and Plant as well too. Those 3 fights alone have pretty much scaled back anything that Jake Paul is talking about at the end of the day. And, Jake Paul probably did a little bit too much when he said that I'm the so-and-so's the face and so-and-so's the tits and I'm the ass. Well, Jake, you're not a part of that group. It just was that we had a pandemic going. People got a little bored. Boxing kept playing around about putting the best versus the best. And then you were able to get some traction because you knocked out some old UFC guys. Other than that, you were never a person that was going to take over the game of boxing. It's just that simple. It's just not going to happen. You don't have credibility to do it. You just are somebody that is putting on a circus. It's that simple. Much love to Jake Paul. I understand the entrepreneurial moves, but let's be realistic at the end of the day. You feel me? So with that, that's going to be a wrap on talking about that situation right there. And pretty much with that, we're going to go ahead and take our commercial break. And when I get back, we're going to be talking Blue Crew Daily, the MLB Pennant Race, my games for tonight as well, too. The 3 games that I feel are the games of the night. And we'll go from there. So with that, this is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DBacks, the Primetime Capper. And we'll be right back at you.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.
Tune into Big Wave Boxing every week with a brand new guest with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, getting the best boxing stories, best boxing angles, and the truth when it all comes down to the sweet science. Tune into Big Wave Boxing on the Prime Wave Media channel on YouTube.
All right, we're back with the premier sports betting show, the Primetime Angles. And the Dodgers last night went ahead and swept out the A's, and boy, they dominated the A's over the last few days as well too. That was ugly. You know what I mean? Dodgers start 4-game series with Padres in San Diego after sweeping the A's. How crucial is it to win this series as they lead the NL West by a slim margin? Well, when it comes down to it, the Dodgers last night, they win 8-2. Night before they won 10-1. And I think the night before that, they won, was it 10-1 the night before? And then the night before that, I think it was 7-1 or something of that nature. But the Dodgers just absolutely dominated the A's. They treated the A's like they were supposed to. The A's came in there, trying to sneak some wins through the back door, or really, they weren't even trying. Let's just keep it real. They did not try at all. All right. And I think they had a nice little protest and everything going on, helpful to try to keep the A's in Oakland. But I think that's starting to get more and more realistic that it ain't going to happen unless they get a miracle buyer to get that franchise and is somebody who's willing to stick it out in Oakland and try to get those stadiums. But that's another topic for another day. The Dodgers and Padres this weekend, this is going to be a huge series because the Padres literally are looking at the balance between, are we going to make the playoffs? Or are we not going to make the playoffs? Do we start calling up guys from the farm and start resting some of our better players? Or do we really go ahead and try to fight for this thing? I know that they're going to be all in this weekend with these 4 games, and they know that this series is critical towards them moving forward. But are they going to catch the Dodgers? Absolutely not. Well, can they catch the Giants right now if they can get something going? Yep. Can they catch the Diamondbacks? Yep. Because those 2 teams right there are teams that are not as consistent as they need to be, especially as you can see right now, the Diamondbacks are 6.5 games behind the Dodgers now, while the Giants are 2.5 games back. But then you have this crew sitting over there 8 games back now. They were 11 games back last week. So they're starting to chip in just a little bit. But San Diego still kind of put themselves in a bad position by not stepping up when they needed to step up. Big weekend last weekend sweeping the Rangers. That was huge. And then having a pretty good week this week as well, too. So they feel that this could be the series that really changes around their season. So the Dodgers can't give them any idea that that's going to happen. The Dodgers are up against it, though, this weekend because they got Urias pitching tonight. Then they're going to have Ryan Yarbrough make his debut this weekend as well, too. And then I think you got Tony Gonsolin pitching as well. Bobby Miller is going to be pitching tonight. So you got a lot of different options going and things like that. But I feel like the Dodgers, the other night, this series right here with the A's built up a lot of confidence moving forward. So the Dodgers should be in good shape this weekend, and getting a split will be the best thing possible, but don't get swept. That's the one thing in a 4-game series, you cannot get swept. That's the whole thing. But I think, honestly, the Dodgers take 3 out of 4 here because they just had the Padres number, and I feel like the Padres really overestimated themselves, and they're now, with them having to dog paddle their way back into relevancy, it's just too late, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I think they needed to be a little bit more assertive with their season earlier on. Now they're in a position where it's just like, well, we're here, and pretty much that's where we're at. So with this, we move ahead and pretty much we will move ahead and talk about this pennant race. Pennant race is looking pretty good. We got ourselves some pretty good situations going in this. We have a very locked in NL Central right now. You have it to where you have the Reds, who struggled this week, and it messed them up a lot to the point to where now they're sitting in a position to where they're not where they want to be anymore. They're a half a game behind the Brewers. And then you have the Cubbies who've won their last 8 out of 10. They're 2.5 games back. And surprise, surprise, they have a plus 79 run differential. Everybody else has a minus in the Central. So that gives them a little bit of confidence moving forward that they can be right there. But this is a 3-man race now. Right now, the Cubs are getting absolutely rocked by the Braves, but that doesn't mean anything. They're at the closest they've been at all season to being in the lead for this division. And they have games coming up against both of these teams in the next 6 weeks. So this what makes this really incredible, because at the end of the month, Milwaukee and the Cubs lock up. And that's something that's pretty cool. And then when you look at what's going on next month, they lock up with Cincinnati 4 times right after they lock up with Milwaukee. So they have 2 series that are going to play a key part in them possibly getting to the playoffs. But they have to continue this stretch drive right now as well, too. They got a tough weekend coming up with Atlanta. Atlanta is the best team in baseball. So they have a tough weekend coming up. So we'll see. Atlanta's running away with the East. Let's just keep it real. Atlanta's doing whatever they want. They're 11.5 games up over the Phillies, who have now caught the Marlins after having a pretty good series against the Marlins this week. They find themselves in position to keep ascending towards the playoffs. Now I'm looking at the Dodgers situation. As I said, we just talked about that, 2.5 ahead of San Francisco, 6.5 ahead of Arizona, who they were 4.5 behind 6 weeks ago. Then you have San Diego, who's 9 games back. In Colorado, I just mentioned them because they in the division, 20.5 games back, but ain't nobody surprised by that. Now, Baltimore has the best record in the AL, and the best record in the AL East, but they play in the best division in baseball, because every single one of these teams could be the leader in the NL Central, and 2 of the teams could be the leader in the in AL West. So they have a lot going in their favor. As we know, Tampa Bay's being real middling right now. They're starting to kind of get things back together, but it's a very, very, thank you very much for that. And also Cubs, Braves has just went final. Nephew, thank you for the update as well too. I'm not able to look at the scoreboard right now, but thank you. 8-0 Cubs win. Damn, game was quick. The game started at 11:20, was over at 1:30. Yeah, so that was pretty fast. So in the East, you have Tampa Bay now 2 games back, their biggest deficit of the year. Also, you have the Blue Jays, who are 7.5 games back at this point. Red Sox are 9.5 games back, and the Yankees are a solid 10. So you have a very open division, and they are all chasing this. And I'm telling you now, Boston is 9.5 back now, but Boston is going to chip into this lead. And Boston is a team that you're going to have to take a lot very seriously. Toronto has to watch themselves, because they're only 2 games ahead of Boston this weekend. They have a 3-game series with Boston this weekend. Boston mess around and sweep them this weekend. Now Boston's in 3rd place, and now Boston's moving towards where they want to be at. So we'll see how it goes with that. Then Minnesota is 2.5 games ahead of Cleveland right now. And Minnesota has really scraped and clawed for that lead, because they've been back and forth with Cleveland the last 2 months, back and forth. But now they got a little bit of headway with the 2.5 games now. They had a good week. They got a series that's very important for them this weekend, but it's also very important for the Diamondbacks. So they wind up being in one of the better series of the weekend. And pretty much that's where you have it at. Nobody's catching nobody in this division when it comes to Cleveland and Minnesota. Detroit is a team that's really is rebuilding. Them winning is kind of like, oops, we did it again. We won again. So what? And then when you look at the White Sox, absolute joke, absolute failure. White Sox were supposed to be so much better than this. They know that they were supposed to be so much better than this, and they were not. So pretty much they are where they need to be. And then funniest thing is, I said it last night on Twitter, The Kansas City Royals have actually won their last 7 out of 10 games. They're 35-75, but they're playing much better baseball than most of the American League right now, and they got themselves a good series win as well too this week in against the Mets. So that's something to build on, and that's something to move forward with. And then you have the Rangers and Houston, who have to hold off the Mariners and the Angels. The Angels are 7.5 games out from first place, while you have Seattle, who's 6 games out of first place. And then you have Houston, who's a game and a half out of first place. Now, Seattle has won their last 7 out of 10, while Houston's won their last 6 out of 10. So pretty much these teams are ascending towards the level towards the top. And I'm telling you guys right now, the Rangers really do need to not be careful. They need to keep playing the game that they're playing and not switch up anything, because Houston's on their tail. And I'm telling you right now, Houston's going to catch them. But they can go ahead and try to hold off the Angels in Seattle. But it's going to be tough, because these teams, I'm telling you, these teams really, when they match up, it's always going to be a tough game when we get to the summer with these squads. So we're going to see how it goes. But the American League has plenty of parity to it, and that's a beautiful thing to watch, and that's a beautiful thing to see. So with that, we will move forward and jump into our first game that we have here, and that's going to be the Astros and the Yankees. And yes, I did see that Kamara was suspended for the first 3 games of the season, but I try not to get too into that type of stuff. But we knew it was coming. Guys got to learn how to have the fall guy catch the fade, not you catch the fade. You know what I mean? You guys make too much money to be fighting these fans in clubs and stuff like that. I know you got to protect yourself and make sure that people ain't trying to punk you, and you got to keep up reputation and things like that. But when you're a millionaire and making millions of dollars, you're on national TV every single week, what's the point damn near throwing your career away for a dude that is just doing too much? You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to let those guys win on those nights, you know what I mean, and have a fun story for themselves, but that still doesn't mean that they living a good life. But you got to learn, and he's going to learn the hard way with sitting out these first 3 games. Now, back to the Astros and the Yankees. Astros coming in here 62-48. The Yankees are 57-52. The Yankees have got themselves 2 really good emotional wins back-to-back. They got a good win last night to open up this series against the Astros, and they got a good win to not get swept by the Devil Rays the other night as well, too. So they're coming into this game tonight with Luis Cervino pitching, and Cervino was pretty good last time out. Well, no, he was not. He actually gave up 9 runs last time out, and I wouldn't say he struggled in his last 5, but he hasn't been as consistent as you want him to be. He's had points where he gave up 9 runs and 7 runs, and then 1 and 3 runs, and then he just recently gave up 9 runs again. So this is a game that it's going to be like this. It's all going to be about how he responds in the beginning of the game. And will he be able to keep it going? That's the biggest question. Then you got Hunter Brown tonight, who's 7-7 on the season, 4.12 ERA as well, too. He was pretty good in his last 2 starts. He only gave up 2 runs in each of those starts, struck out 4, and only gave up 10 hits in total on both those starts as well, too. So that's something to look up for. And Hunter Brown has seemed to be a consistent pitcher all year long, but he does have moments where he gets hit as well, too. So we have that running in the fold tonight with this Astros and Yankees game. So what I'm looking at tonight and how I'm going to play this one is like this. I'm going to go ahead and circle the over 9 with the Astros and Yankees tonight. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, we have ourselves the Miami Marlins going against the Texas Rangers, and you have the Marlins coming in here 58-52. You have the Rangers 63-46. As I said, this is a very, very, very important weekend for both teams in Texas, and it's simply because the Rangers could mess around and get swept this weekend, and now the Astros are back in first place. And I say this because the Rangers have struggled against National League teams this year. And so pretty much they have to be on the watch out for that because they played against the Padres last weekend in San Diego, got swept. The Dodgers came over one weekend, beat them 2 out of 3. I think they went down to Arizona. They lost 2 out of 3 in that series as well, too. So when you look at this situation setting up, they have to really understand that this weekend is going to be a weekend that can take away their first place lead if they're not on their A game the way that they need to be. And I think they will be. They got new teammates here as well, too. Jordan Montgomery's pitching tonight as well, too, to solidify those trades. Also, they have Martin Perez, who's coming in this weekend to pitch. And I think John Gray's pitching this weekend as well, too. So they got a lot of things working towards, winning this division and possibly winning the pennant of the American League as well, too. But it all starts with series like these where they just can't slip up. Miami, on the other hand, they're in a position right now where it's a win or start getting ready for Cancun, because literally this team at one point in June, July, they were one of the hotter teams in baseball. Then we got to the All-Star break, things changed a little bit. At one point, this team was the number one wild card team in baseball. Now they're on the outside looking in. So that's something that we have to key in as well, too. This team is a half a game behind Cincinnati at this point, and they really did fall off because they were the number one wild card team and find themselves now out of the picture. But that doesn't mean that they're hapless. It just means that now they're in a very tough log jam with those 4 other teams that are trying to get in here as well, too. But really now it's been cut down to seriously 4 teams, but to me, really 3. San Diego has to show us some in the next 2 weeks. It's just really that simple with them. But we know the Cubs are vying for their division, but they have a chance at getting to that spot. And then we also know that you have Arizona vying for that position, but they also have it to where if they can get hot at the right time, they could steal their division. And Miami is in a bad spot because Miami has to win that final wild card spot because they can't think about, we're going to catch Atlanta. Nobody's catching Atlanta in the East. It's that simple. So pretty much with this game tonight, the way that I'm setting this one up is like this. This game is actually going to be one that I'm jumping into because I feel like the starter is going to be really good tonight. So I'm taking the Rangers with the minus 150 tonight. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. We move forward from there. All right, so let's go ahead and move to our next game, and that's going to be this one. It's going to be the DBacks and the Twins. You got Merrill Kelly on the mound for the DBacks, and then you also have Bailey Ober on the mound for the Twins. So pretty much in this game tonight, you have 2 teams that are vying for different things. You got Minnesota, who's chasing their division, and I just keep talking about it. Arizona's chasing a playoff spot, chasing the Dodgers, and pretty much are playing catch up now because this team had a 5.5 game lead at the most in the West. And at one point, I think they were the number 1 team in all of baseball back in May for about a week or 2. So this has kind of been a bad fall off for the Diamondbacks, who got off to such a great start, and they were in position to kind of be the team, not kind of be the first California team in some time now to push off the Dodgers, because San Diego and San Francisco, it's pretty much has been a all-state rivalry with those 3 over the last 5 years. But Arizona is now in the mix. But Arizona, as I kept telling you guys, they're a younger team. Sometimes when you win very early, it can mess you up later on because you don't have enough in the tank. Just like a racehorse that shoots out to the front, 21 1/4, and this one winds up running out of gas when we get to the stretch. And that's how you feel about Arizona. Their top rookie, Carroll, he's dealing with the nagging injuries that you deal with after game 75 or so. Perdomo hasn't been doing much. You haven't been getting much from the other rookies as well either. So there's just a lot of things that you have to put together when it comes to Arizona. But when it comes down to this game tonight, what I'm going to do with this one, this is actually going to be a part of my late ticket as well too. I'm going to take the under 8.5 in this spot. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out, and we move forward from there. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and we are going to take one final break. And when I get back, we got plenty of tickets to talk about. So stay tuned. This is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper.
Now you and your friends can compete in the sport of kings and win big with Stable Duel. Get the app, pick your horses, and get in on the thrill of horse racing. With daily games competing against other players. Bring home the glory and the cash, and move up the annual leaderboard while you leave your competition in the dust. Get in the game with Stable Duel. Play, race, win.
Good News Only Racing Club, led by the legendary Doug O'Neill, the trainer of 2 Kentucky Derby winners and I'll Have Another and Nyquist. Also trained 2-time Breeders' Cup champ Golden Sense, who are just a part of a long list of thoroughbred champions trained by Doug O'Neill. The Good News Only Racing Club has a young core of horses to look out for in Dennis's Celery, Irish Heatwave, and Notre Dame, just to name a few. Win the day every day with the Good News Only Racing Club, a proud sponsor of the NFL Bet Exchange.
All right, we are back here with the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and we are here now on our third segment. And when we get to the third segment, you know what time it is. It's time to talk about those tickets. So with that, let's go ahead and talk them tickets. So up first, we have ourselves a WNBA pick 4 tonight. The WNBA pick 4 is going to be a 36-1 ticket because I'm getting a little crazy Gideon tonight. A little crazy, bro. A little nutty, a little wild. You know what I mean? And I'm going to take the over 160 with the Sun and the Fever to kick this thing off. Then we have the Mystics tonight at home against the Sparks. I'm taking them with the 3.5. Hopefully they can win this one by 5 or better. I say 5 or better because I don't want to make it that close. I don't want to sweat that much. You know what I mean? We have the under 164 with the Sky and the Wings tonight as well too. And then we finish up with the Lynx money line plus 410 tonight. I'm just feeling kind of Freaky Friday, you know what I mean? I'm just feeling kind of feverish on a Friday, you know what I mean? I'm feeling kind of froggy on a Friday. So let's go ahead and see how it goes. I like the plus 410. Let's move forward from there. All right, we have ourselves the MLB Series Bets for this weekend. I'm shooting for an upset. I like the Royals this weekend with the plus 270. Why? Royals, like I said before, they've won 7 out of 10 games this week, over the last few weeks. And then also they've just been able to play really great baseball up under the radar. And this is the type of series where they'll go in there and everybody's going to take the Phillies each and every game and then wind up seeing the Phillies lose each and every game. I've been here before with the Phillies. I don't trust them in this spot at this time of the year against this type of team. I know they're one of the worst teams in baseball, but just trust me. This is going to be a very tough weekend for the Phillies if they don't really play, if they play down to the Royals level, because right now the Royals aren't playing at a bad level. You have to gauge teams on how they're coming into the game through their last 10, 15, 20 games. You can't just keep always looking at what they did 2 months ago and when they went 2-28. It's a different time, different place, different team. So I like the Royals with the plus 270, the Mets plus 165 this weekend, and this is going to be a very, very fun bet right here because you have a Mets team that's going into a series where pretty much they are waving the white flag on their season. They're not worried about anything else. So they're loose. They're carefree. And this is one of the series that you can go ahead and pop a team that is, has the pressure on them to get to the playoffs. And so I think that, they still have it to where it's something that is going to be a big moment for the Mets as who they have now. So they're going against the Orioles this weekend. And I told Mike on the show yesterday that this could possibly be the time where they hit the wall. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it shakes out. And Orioles, I'm telling you guys now, don't get so excited about them moving forward, because August is going to be the toughest month of the year on them. And this is going to be a very, very tough series that they're playing with. Even though the Mets are struggling, the Mets are a team that has no more worries. That's the whole thing. Now the Orioles, they got to play tight. The pressure's on. Things are different. They were one of the more loose bunches because they were playing for evaluation, for improvement, to see exactly where they can go into next year. But they're ahead of schedule, and this is what happens when you're ahead of schedule. Then you start tightening up and you start changing your style up, because now you're seen as a team that can win your division. So I like the Mets going into this one. Guardians must-win series this weekend, minus 220. White Sox coming into this thing struggling. They've traded half the team already. I like the minus 220. Well, they traded half the pitching rotation. So I like the minus 220 Guardians. Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it shakes out. Red Sox, Blue Jays, and probably the most important series of the weekend when it comes to teams that are chasing the wild card spot. The Red Sox are actually in motion right now. As I keep saying, they seem like they are on the stretch drive, and they are with the pack, and they're ready to make one big stretch run to try to win the AL East or get themselves into a good playoff spot. So I like them with the minus 140. And the Blue Jays are just struggling this week. They lost 4 in a row to the Orioles. So we have to move forward and see exactly what they're going to be able to do this weekend. I think the Red Sox are just going to be that much better than them. And then we have the Marlins this weekend. I love the Marlins with the plus 165. The Marlins are in this spot against the Rangers. I just explained it to you guys when we broke down the game for tonight. The Rangers are terrible against the National League, and they've been really bad against the top teams with winning records in the National League as well, too. So I'm just looking at what happened last weekend against the Padres, and I'm just factoring in what the Marlins can do this weekend when they go against these guys. Yes, Jordan Montgomery is the starter tonight, but big whoop, who cares? He's coming from a team that play pretty bad baseball, but hopefully he can step it up for him. But tonight, I feel like the Marlins should be, not tonight, but I feel like for this weekend, the Marlins should win the series. I don't have them winning tonight, but I think they win the next 2 games of the series after tonight. So with that, plus 165 to them. And then we wrap it up with the Twins with the very important home series this weekend, because if they wind up getting swept or anything like that by Arizona, then they pretty much will be back in second place by a half a game. They don't want that to happen, because if the Guardians sweep this weekend, then they're back in second place. So they have to keep the good times rolling, to me, and I think that's exactly what they do with the faltering Diamondbacks team. So let's move forward and talk about the actual games that I have for you tonight. And up first, we have ourselves the over 9 with the Astros and the Yankees. We have the Nats with the plus 1.5 tonight with Corbin on the mound, minus 130. Then we also have the under 9.5 with the Royals and the Phillies tonight. Then the Mets are our dog of the day, plus 135 tonight. Then we have the Rangers minus 150 at home. And then we have the Brewers plus 120 in their home game tonight against the Pirates. And that's going to be the 1.5. And then we have ourselves the late pick 4. 12-1. We have the 1.5 to the Cards, who are going to be at minus, 105 tonight on that bad boy. And then we also have the under 8.5 with the DBacks and the Twins tonight. And then we also have the Angels minus 105 tonight as well, too. And then we finish up with the over 8 with the Dodgers and the Padres tonight. Yeah, I know Yu Darvish and Bobby Miller on the mound, but it's hot in Cali right now. And the ball be flying off that bat when it's hot. So there it is. There it is. That's going to be our late pick 4. And those are going to be our tickets for today. So with that, that's going to be a wrap on the shows for this week. I know we missed yesterday, but as I told you guys, I had some technical difficulties with that, so there was no point of doing a half-ass show. So pretty much we're back. We got back to it today. I'll be back on Monday with some more tickets, more news, and then we're going to start these football previews as well too. So you guys make sure to tune in for all of that, all right? So with that, as I always say, bet with your head, not with your heart. The movement is moving, and this is the Premier Sports Betting Show, the Primetime Angles, with the one and only Pop DiBiase, the Primetime Capper, and I am gone.
From the East and the West, you've heard others, but now you've tuned into the best. This is a Prime Wave Media production.